Repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time today? Nobody? Great. Y'all haven't figured it out yet? That's why you keep showing up. Why come back? Why keep practicing? Well, it's hard. It's hard, right? What else?
Because it's easier to do the practice for me with shared energy of people who want to grow.
Yeah. Sitting with others. Definitely. What else? Why show up? Why practice here or outside of here? Either way.
You have to have a reason.
Do you have to have a reason? No. But I know most of this group, and you all have a reason. Yeah. Amazing. All of a sudden, you're all quiet. Been complaining all morning, griping all morning, miserable all morning. Maybe not all of you. Yeah.
I'm not being funny. I'm serious.
If it's about me, I don't want to hear it.
No, I need a place where I have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
And I have structure, and I can't get out of line.
Yeah. It's called discipline. Yeah. It's something that's really overlooked in Buddhist teachings, I find, is discipline. Because if I asked, it's like the joke I used to make, or I still do every so often, but the old Buddha Free location, we were there, 9+ years ago, and started that place in 2009. But the sign on the window said free meditation. That was our Saturday class. This class started at Buddha Free. We had the whole temple schedule downtown, and then Saturday was Buddha Free. And the community there was actually larger than the Dharma Bum Temple community. A lot of people don't realize that, but that's when we came here, we merged two communities together. But the sign said free meditation. All these people show up every Saturday, right? Free meditation. And my joke always was, if that sign said free morality class, how many people would have shown up? Not too many, right? If the sign said free discipline class, maybe you'd get 2 more, right? But discipline is definitely overlooked in Buddhist practice. And without discipline, you don't have Buddhist practice. You have an attempt at Buddhist practice. And an attempt at Buddhist practice, still an attempt. It's good, it's hard, right? So we keep trying, we keep working at it. But as I always say, for me, I've been failing at this practice for 22 years. And I say that very honestly. And I'm okay with that. It's not a judgment. It's not a critique. I'm not looking for somebody to say, don't be so hard on yourself. I'm good, right? It's the reality that, yes, this practice is hard and it requires discipline, mental, emotional, physical discipline. And like I said, if the announcement went out this morning that said free discipline class Saturday at 11 o'clock, you know, I don't want to judge all of you in this room, only the ones I know so well, but most people wouldn't come here for a discipline class. Because discipline sounds what? What words come to mind when I say discipline?
Harsh.
Harsh, what else? Punitive, punishment, strict. What else? Boring. Who said boring? Who said boring? Yeah, it's boring, right? Structured. I mean, who wants boring, structured, punitive? What'd you say? Strict stuff. Nobody wants that. We want the opposite of that, and to meditate and be happy, and let everybody do everything we want them to do, right? Or hope that everybody does everything that we want them to. Never going to happen. So the discipline, without discipline, I mean, monastery life, that's the first thing they teach you is discipline. It is structured. It is strict. It is discipline. They tell you what to eat, what to wear, when to stand, when to sit, when to walk. It is intense because meditation and Buddhist practice is a training. How many of you have been through trainings before of some level? Most of us, right? How fun are trainings? I mean, unless it's maybe a wonderful fun. I don't know, maybe I'm training to be a chef. I guess that could be fun. Or, you know, training to do ceramics on the wheel or something like that could be fun. But trainings in general are difficult. They're strict. They require a lot of effort and work. And most people come to Buddhist practice putting so much effort and work into other areas of their life. And so they come to meditation and Buddhist practice as the one reason that I'm always saying don't show up here. And that is as a what? Escape. I get that because I got started in Buddhist practice to escape. So when I say things like that, it's definitely not a critique or judgment. It's looking at, okay, for me personally, why did I start Buddhist practice? I started Buddhist practice to escape from the chaos and madness. And then I realized that I was the chaos and the madness, and you can't escape from yourself. So the very first thing was discipline and structure. Now, this isn't a monastery. You're lay. We're all lay people. We're not monks. We're not nuns. We're living our lives. You're here an hour or 2 or 3 a week, whatever you do. And then there's every other part of your life. So the challenge is, and I'll stop in a moment, we'll do meditation and maybe we'll pick this up after, but the challenge is, how can you begin to discipline yourself with meditation and Buddhist practice in your life outside of here? Because if you can bring mental, emotional, physical discipline into your life, then the need for escaping falls away. The need to run away from the chaos falls away. Because what actually brought the chaos was a lack of mental, emotional, and physical discipline. So it is a training the mind. And that's not always the most fun. So with that, we'll sit. To those who are joining virtually, glad you're here. Feel free to say hello as you are. Thank you for showing up. Meditation practice, a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Do not judge your practice, meaning do not ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide to the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, just trying to sit up straight. You're not trying to kick back and relax and fall asleep. You're actually trying to wake up. So put yourself in a position where you can be attentive to posture. Most important, do not expect anything from this practice. We're just going to sit and breathe. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from your practice, just sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. The most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. And ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as I was alluding to earlier. This practice is direct perception into the present moment and being with life as it arises. So many people spend their whole lives running from place to place to place. You keep running, you're going to get tired. So much of our time is spent trying to control and fix and change and manipulate everything and everyone around us. This practice is working on your mind and your reaction to the world around us. So then when we work to create change, we come from a place of loving kindness and compassion, not from hatred and anger, which is where so much of our action is coming from. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody you encounter every moment of your life. And that's it. For me, as was mentioned at the beginning, this practice is incredibly difficult, but it's also very simple. I try not to complicate it. 2,500 years of teachings and traditions and lineages and language and cultures and ways of practice. The Four Noble Truths, the foundation of the Buddhist teachings, very simple. You can sum that up with think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. That is the practice, and that never changes. Often people like to get wrapped up in kind of the illusion or facade and the attraction of this Buddhist thing from some faraway land from a long time ago, and all the bells and whistles. It is very present in our lives every single day right now. Awareness of your thoughts, awareness of your words, and awareness of your actions. And that doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter where you think you're going. It's not about being Buddhist. As I always say, if there's 50 people here, there's probably one person who's Buddhist and another person who's not sure. It's not about being Buddhist. It's about being kind. And that's difficult. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always really prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with, and we'll use the rest of our time for questions. And again, to those joining virtually, welcome, glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Feel free as you are. If you have any questions, you want to put them in the chat box or say hello. Feel free. There's a comment here that says, I remember you said that inner peace is already inside me. I continue to look inside myself for that feeling every day. Keep looking. It's there. But in reality, it's not so much about finding that inner peace that's there. It's about a recognition and awareness of what is blocking the inner peace. And that's my metaphor always with the clouds on a sunny day, or the sun on a cloudy day, I should say. That the sun is always there, but the clouds block it. So this looking for inner peace, you don't find inner peace through some hunt or search. You awaken to the inner peace. You become aware of the inner peace, Bodhisattva, Buddha nature, when the clouds part. That's your three poisons of greed, anger, ignorance. So this isn't about finding the inner peace. It's about becoming aware of your levels of greed, your levels of anger, and your levels of ignorance. And as you minimize those and remove those, you just wake up to the inner peace that's there. So questions? Yeah.
I have a philosophical question.
Okay. Yes.
Causal relations of all phenomena. What does that mean to you?
So as you said, for those virtually or anyone who didn't hear it, that you have a philosophical question, and then you said the causal relationship of all phenomena, what does that mean to me? So what that means to me is I am only speaking right now because you asked that question. You asked that question only because you came in these doors. You came in these doors only because the Dharma Bum Temple exists. These doors only exist because Emanuel Swedenborg, born in 1700 and something, decided to teach Christian mysticism. And in the 1900s, their local chapter in San Diego built this incredible 1927, 98-year-old building. So causal relationship of all phenomena means that pew you're sitting on was also built probably 100 years ago. You're only sitting there right now because of the person who built that pew. Otherwise, you'd be on the floor. And because Emanuel Swedenborg lived 300 something years ago. So when you ask me that question, did you think about Emanuel Swedenborg? Probably not. No. When you do everything else you do all day long, do you think about the endless causal relationship of all phenomena? Karma is in essence what that is. The pratitya samupata, dependent origination, the law of cause and effect, you can say it various ways. But it is the, to me, to your question, what does that mean to me? It is the ability, and I don't mean in some like superhero kind of way, but the ability to look at a situation and see the causal relationship of all phenomena involved in it, meaning the endless continuation of karma, law of cause and effect, not what goes around comes around. That's not karma. Karma is not what you get, it's what you give. Karma is action. So when we see a situation, when you ask that question, do you and I recognize that that question does not exist in this space without Emanuel Swedenborg? No. Now, when we go through our day and to bring it to like a practical situation, when you go through your day and you get frustrated, you ever get frustrated? Once, remember that time like 12 years ago when you got frustrated, right? Can you look at that situation and understand that in that moment of frustration, for the most part, who are you thinking about when you're frustrated? You. You didn't all see it, but Kathy did this, right? So you're thinking about you. You're not thinking about the other person or people or places involved. You're not thinking about what led the other person or people or places to do what they're doing. You're not thinking about if you're, say, upset with some person. You're not thinking about every experience they've gone through their entire life that led to that moment. But all of their experiences are valid and have happened and occurred and caused them harm and trauma and suffering and pain and joy and happiness. So they're all linked together. All we see is that moment to moment, you didn't do what I wanted, and now I'm mad at you. Causal relationship of all phenomena. And what this allows us to do in theory and in practice, I should say, is to observe situations as they arise. But as situations arise, what do we typically do to them? Fight them. What else? Judge them. Yeah, judge them, critique them, fight them. So when situations arise, we don't observe them. We quickly move to judgment and critique and fighting, as opposed to observing and saying, what's going on here? What's my role in this? What's their role in this? What have they gone through? What have I gone through? Do we see the causal relationship, the connection of all phenomena, all karma, all situations that occurred for this dialogue to even happen? You know? So that's what it means to me. I truly believe that this practice and this understanding is what allows anger and hatred to fade away. Because how can we be angry at someone that's just been tortured and abused physically, mentally, emotionally their whole life in so many ways that we don't even understand? This is where compassion comes into play. And the wisdom is to have compassion for those who are suffering. You know? So, what else?
So getting back to diligence, absolutely necessary, but for me, there has to be a balance between diligence and patience. My personality is such that, yeah, I will be diligent with something. Early on in this practice, I did one of those Vipassana 10-day retreats. It's basically a boot camp. And I'm going to get some insights. I'm going to get up at 5, I'm going to meditate all day. And then you expect, if you put that effort forth. And at the end of that, it's like, on the inside, the outside, I didn't want to become a monk. But I have to be patient that things will evolve the way they're going to evolve.
Yes.
So it's this balance between, yes, you have to be diligent, but you just got to also be really, really patient.
Yeah.
That's for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the practice of patience, and again, even if you look at the Bodhisattva Path and the Bodhisattva practice of the 6 Paramitas, generosity, morality, patience, then diligence. Not that they're not necessarily in order, but generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. So yes, the diligence that is required, absolutely, I'm just repeating what you said, requires patience, because if we're not patient with it, then we potentially get frustrated or irritated or annoyed, and then the diligence falls away. So the challenge is that we often think that the effort that we put in is just so quickly going to bear fruit. I mean, I get people come into this practice and they're like, I've been doing this 6 months, my life hasn't changed yet. It's like, well, you were treating people like crap for 40 years. And now all of a sudden you think 6 months is going to change it, And so we also have a timeline on things. And we view the timeline as in one life, and I better figure it out before this age, or before I die, or before this, or before that. And so I think it helps with diligence. Again, this isn't your question, but just rambling. I think it helps with diligence. One of the best ways to stay patient with diligence is to not tie any expectation on any of the effort that you are making. Now, this is really difficult because throughout our lives, we put so much effort into things in various areas of our lives. And when you put effort into it, what do you begin to do?
We want to pay off.
We want to pay off, right? But Buddhist practice there is no payoff. It's great. I've never actually looked at it. It's like there is no payoff. There's no, okay, well, I did this, so where's my little, Buddhist brownie points? Where's my I'm a good Buddhist certificate? No, they don't. You're just doing it moment to moment to moment without the expectation. And that is the Bodhisattva practice. Again, Bodhisattva is enlightened being, Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, endless body of compassion, the large statue in the middle behind me. The Bodhisattva practice is to give, to practice generosity without any notion of a gift, a giver, or a receiver. And I'm using that in reference to our practice. When we give the Dharma, the teachings in practice into our lives, generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom, when we practice that in our lives, the practice is to practice without anything expected in return. And too many people come into this practice are like, well, I've done this practice. What do I get from it now? Nothing. You get the joy of practicing. And if that's not enough, then you're not practicing. If that's not enough, then you're judging and you're critiquing. So, yeah. Thank you. What else? Yeah.
Just to sort of comment on that.
Yeah.
I guess my counter to, I'm not seeing enough of a change for all of us would be that sometimes we might not notice that fine tune of a change in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take a step back and look more with an artist's perspective, give yourself some grace, usually there's significant change.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's, I'm an occupational therapist for a living, and I sort of consider myself a healer of sorts. And I think, you can kind of feel when somebody is blocked by anger, by shame, by different emotions. And it's not that I'm going to come in and fix anything, but I can see it blocking.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have that. When we look deeply into somebody's eyes, we understand that they're blocked.
Yeah.
And we understand that when we convene, I, as a therapist, am also free. I receive freedom through my work with my patients.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's, when we're honest about our moments in life, that maybe seem insignificant, quite a lot of change happens when you force yourself to sit still, because you don't even notice in your neurology that you're applying that to your daily life. But
Yeah.
we need it as Westerners. We need to slow the F down because we're outpacing ourselves and we're destroying our soulful side of our lives.
Definitely.
So I think, as a therapist, I very much, I feel I quickly register those things I can see, but that's through training, right? That's like academic training.
Yeah.
I think all of us, just simply by sitting, it's a world of change in a person's, and then you go out and you encounter people on the street or your family, and you're better
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate you saying that. It's funny because even when I was when I was rambling about the patients and, the comment I made about, 40 years, if someone had been doing this for 40 years and after 6 months, they don't see change, it popped into my head and I didn't say it. The reality is that there is change occurring. And part of what I'm hearing you say is that we don't always see it. But if someone is showing up, and I don't mean physically to here, but if someone is showing up in meditation or to Buddhist practice or here or any sort of spiritual journey, change is absolutely occurring. It might not be occurring as fast as we want it to, and it might not seem like this big grand change, but yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, normal.
Jeff, any problem in assessing the change once in a while mentally?
So the question is, there any problem in assessing the change mentally? I think that, and I always talk about not judging or critiquing our practice, but at the same time, awareness is critical. I think if you recognize that you're being triggered less with anger or sadness or, anxiety, I don't find anything wrong in practice with being aware that, hey, I'm less angry, I'm less anxious. I don't see anything wrong with that. The middle path, the balance is to be able to observe that, but not cling or attach to it.
But just notice it.
Noticing, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's healthy and practical and going to happen regardless,
Hi, I was gonna ask, is there a Buddhist idea or way that helps with addiction or impulsivity?
Yes.
Because I deal with that a lot in my life, and I quit drinking, I quit smoking weed, but for some reason, I always have to have one vice, whether it's, something that's not looked down upon, like eating a favorite sugary snack or having a comfort cigarette, something that is looked down upon.
For sure. So the question was, is there anything in Buddhist teaching that addresses kind of addiction? And you said, you stopped drinking, you stopped using drugs, but you find that you still have some sort of, whether it's a sugary snack or something like that, some sort of addiction towards something. Is there anything in the Buddhist teachings that addresses that? Show of hands, how many in this room are addicted to something? Every single person in this room. Now, we tend to, and when I say we, I mean, I'm just referring to kind of a Western culture, refer to, and I'm not an addict. I've never been an addict by the way we typically look at addiction. And that's what I'm talking about. Drugs, alcohol, whatever that addiction may be, food, there's other things there. So I'm not in recovery. I've never been in recovery, but I've worked in that environment and have worked as closely with it as possible from an outsider's perspective for the last 30 years, truly. But I cannot speak from the place of being an addict. What I can tell you is that from Buddhist teachings, the root cause of our suffering is because of craving and desire. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sugary food, the craving to want the sun to be shining, the craving to, how many of you came in and sit in the same darn seat every single time you come in here? I always love giving this talk because then next week a few of you end up sitting somewhere else, right? But so no, people are probably not going to end up in recovery meetings because they show up at a Buddhist temple and sit, Carol, in the same seat every single time, right? I saw your hand first, so I'll pick on you. But what if you came in? Maybe that's why you come early, because you get your seat. But what if you came in and somebody was in your seat? What would happen? Nothing. You'd be all right with it. Who would come in, and if somebody was in your seat, you would not, Jane, you would not be okay with it? Yeah, you're like, that's my seat. We got your name on it and everything, right? So just an example to your point, which is there teachings? Yes, the heart of Buddhist teachings, which I'll get to, is addressing craving and desire, whether it's, with addictions of drugs and alcohol and things like that, or just craving to want to sit a certain place or be a certain way. And this is the Four Noble Truths. The first thing the Buddha taught that all the Buddhist teachings are based on, he said the first one is life is filled with dukkha, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, often referred to as suffering, which is really a poor translation into English because suffering sounds so heavy and extreme and traumatic, which we do. We have heavy trauma, death, loss, things like that, but we also have, you know, somebody's in my seat. It's not the end of the world. I don't like the way my latte was prepared. So we're constantly experiencing difficulty throughout our day. And the second is the cause of our suffering. And this is what I referred to quickly earlier as the three poisons. And this is, I always say it's greed, anger, and ignorance. But the greed part is really craving and desire. The greed is not just about like, I want more money, more houses, more cars. The greed is a craving and desire for things to be different from how they are. And if you look at any addiction, the root of that is there is a craving that we want things to be different. And that is why we are escaping from whatever we're in to the drug, the alcohol, the comfort, right? A lot of times we seek a certain seat because we're comfortable there for whatever reason. Again, these things aren't bad, right? Cravings are not necessarily bad. In fact, the Buddha said there are healthy cravings. The craving to suffer less is a healthy craving. Without the craving to suffer less, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. So these cravings are there all day long. And the important part is to notice them and to look at what is the intention behind them. Am I craving something because it feeds my ego and my sense of self that says I'm important and I need this, or I don't like who I am, so I need to escape from this? Or am I craving and desiring something that's healthy for me and beneficial for me and good for me? And so the first part of this practice is to spend all day long. It's you know, it's not fun, but spend all day long noticing, acknowledging, and becoming aware of everything you crave today. I mean, if you wrote it down, you'd spend all day writing, even to the point where you would be like, okay, I crave writing this down. Now I crave to stop writing this down because this is annoying. Now I crave and wish that I didn't go to that stupid class because then I wouldn't be writing all this dumb stuff down. So we are stuck in this cycle of craving all day long. All of the Buddhist teachings begin with craving, and it comes back to this attachment to the sense of self that says, I am most important. I need what I need. I want what I want, and I must get everything to make my life better. So it's all there. Yeah.
You're saying we should have that sense of self.
Well, I'm just, so the comment was, so I'm saying we shouldn't have that sense of self. The Buddhist teachings, what he taught specifically is there is no self. Now to add to that, it doesn't mean that we're not here. It doesn't mean we don't exist. It just means that we exist completely differently from how we perceive ourselves. So I'm Jeff, I have this body, I am here. But Jeff is just some word that people called me when I was born, right? I'm born and I'm in a crib and I'm like, and I'm screaming and I'm pooping and whatever. And my parents are like, Jeff, there's Jeff, there's Jeff. So eventually I became called Jeff. That's just a word, it's just a name. It's just a physical form. But I am constantly changing. There's no permanent self. Every single moment we are changing. So am I who I am sitting here right now? Am I who I was yesterday or 10 years ago or who I'll be tomorrow if I live till tomorrow? Those are all just definitions that we're using to define and label us. So to your question, correct. The Buddha taught non-self, that we are free from this permanent self that we think is some like perfect little box or label about who we are, who we're supposed to be. And when you shatter that, it's very liberating because then you can just be. Ever spent your life trying to be, what's your name? Josie. You ever spent your life trying to be somebody different than Josie? Different than who you are? Ever wanted to be?
When I was younger, but now I'm like trying to be.
Trying to just, exactly. So now you're just trying to be. But much of our lives, we're trying to be someone different. We need this and we need that, and we want this person or this relationship or this job or this whatever. We're always trying to be and have and acquire more than what we are. Just be. Just sit. That's the practice. Yeah, Jean, what are you going to say?
So I
And
was
then-
just gonna say, unfortunately, I have the ability to find joy and humor in my foibles.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely a character, a person of habit. I call it I don't know if people watch the Big Bang Theory, but there's that guy and there's like, that's my spot. I'm totally about that. So of course, when something happens and I don't get my spot, I used to anymore, we acted like it was serious. But now I do have the pleasure of recognizing that that's the Dharma, that's my opportunity today to acknowledge the dukkha that I'm facing.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
can take it from a thing of I didn't get my spot to familial conflicts with the state stuff. You know, it's all the same, it's all equal, and I have power and a choice in how I choose to respond to it. Externally, internally, not so much.
Sure.
You know, but externally, I have all the freedom to.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say.
And that's kind of where it starts, is recognizing that, yes, our entire day is going to be filled with things that happen that are probably different from how we want them to happen. And how do we respond to them is really the question.
My partner, Robbie, she's been in the hospital, and a lot of crap is going on, but she's out now.
Okay.
But when I'm sort of I'm the caretaker, among other things. And when she was in the hospital and everything, you know, I want to be a mother hen, you know, and, you know, take her on, do this, whatever, you know. And I realize in some ways it's my controlling thing, you know. I want to fix things, I want things to be a certain way, and there's no fixing this. I mean, we're at an age where end of life, you know, and a lot has helped me about looking at my intentions, because clearly there are things I have to do, and it's not always very clear whether I should be doing this or doing that, and so I can examine my intentions, and that has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole episode has been flashback city for me, because I used to be part of that whole, as a technician world in my 20s. And I had to stop doing it because I lost whatever compassion I had. I couldn't do it anymore. I had to stop, you know.
Yeah.
So I do kind of have a notion of where everybody's coming from to some extent. And that kind of helps.
Yeah.
You know, but it also means that I've been thinking a lot about the choices I've made and how I ended up here, and just the way, you know, what you talk about, the karma.
Yeah.
You know? So I have a lot of that stuff going on.
Yeah, it's wild, the way life works out. Well, hope she's okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a challenge, and I'll kind of close with this thought when, you know, the two things that you said about, you know, your wife being in the hospital and she's home now, you said, yeah, but having some, you know, just some health issues, and you said, you know, to your words that, you know, at this stage of your life and that kind of end of life stage, and you love her and you want to be the caretaker and you want to do things for her, but you're also recognizing some of that may be coming from control and seeing what your intention is. And this is a challenge because obviously this, you know, I always talk about non-attachment is love. And so there's this love and compassion that plays out in wanting to care for people and help people always, but also understanding that there's not always, we can't always fix things or change things or make things better. No matter how much you want to love and care for her and for all of us, for anybody, that doesn't always change the result. And that's where the frustration can definitely come in, where we think if we put in some efforts in that controlling way that we can change, and that's so difficult because we can't. And being with that is really difficult. Yeah, so I feel for you and be thinking of you and her. Yeah, for sure. And I think I'll just kind of close with this thought. It just comes back to appreciating each moment while we're here. And I know, you know, I say that all the time. But I think part of the practice, all of the practice really begins with learning to find gratitude and appreciation for each breath, each moment, each day as it passes. Because we don't know how many of them we get. And so when we find ourselves wrapped up in frustration and anger and sadness and things like that, ask yourself, is this really worth being so angry and miserable over? Does it really matter? And there are things, me personally, there are things like, yeah, I'm going to fight for it. And then there's some things that are like, yeah, my life will not change, nor will anybody else's if I spend zero time or energy focusing on this thing that would have maybe frustrated me or annoyed me. It's easier to just, move on from it. But that's for each person kind of decide where you want to spend your thoughts and your emotions and your energy. So I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace and free from suffering. May this merit be transferred to Ravi during her time of suffering. All right, before you all head out, we have some announcements from our Dharma Bum host, Juan. Thanks, Juan.
Hello everyone, I'm Juan, today's host. We opened the Dharma Temple, Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have a different class. We have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food distribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it, then bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again.
Thank you, Juan.
Thanks, Juan.
Shabbat shalom.